Lesson 21 from Module 4. We're going to once again be utilizing our tables and our annotations to write some multiplication and addition equations. So this time our equations are going to be much more complex. We're going to get things like this, 2x plus 5. So we can see there's addition and multiplication. Or in the first case, we might see one like this, 4n plus 13. So these are the kind of expressions we're going to be seeing today. And you're going to be the one building them from a real world situation. So let's look at our first day lesson. So this one, or our first part of the day lesson. So this first one talks about something close to all of us, right? The number of CPs earned, right? So it says that Hank starts the trimester with 25 CPs earned from trimester 1 and 2. So over trimester 1 and 2, he had 25 CPs, okay? That is Hank with 25 CPs going into trimester 3. Charlie, on the other hand, he starts trimester 3 with only 20 CPs. So 20 CPs coming into trimester 3. So, but then, over the course of trimester 3, Hank's going to earn about 1 CP per week. And remember, Hank was the guy who started with 25. And Charlie earns 2 CPs per week. So let's focus on Hank to start with. So first I need to make a table of the number of weeks and the number of CPs earned. So remember, at week 0, before it even starts, ask yourself, how many does Hank have before this even starts? Go back and reread the problem. It says Hank starts trimester 3 with 25 CPs. He earned those from trimesters 1 and 2. So in week 0, before the trimester is even started, we know he starts with 25. But then it says, over the course of trimester 3, Hank earns 1 CP per week. So that means in week 1, how many more CPs does Hank have? Well, he has 25 CPs, but now plus another one. Plus another one. So he has a total of 26 CPs. Let's think about week 2. In week 2, how many does he have? He has 25, right? But this time, we have to add another one, right? We have to add 2 weeks worth, so now he's got 27. And the trend is going to keep going. What about for 5? What would he have in 5 weeks? Well, he would have 25 plus, you have 25 plus 5 CPs. 5 CPs. So what does that give us? That gives us 30. So let's keep going. Let's say for 10 weeks. For 10 weeks, what would he end up having? He would end up having 25 plus, now there's been 10 weeks, so he has a total of 35 CPs. Let's take a look and see how Charlie's going to be different. Now remember, when we read through this, Charlie starts with only 20 CPs. So that means already, what can I say about week 0? He has 20 in week 0. 20 in week 0. Now Charlie's going to get a little more complex because our friend Charlie, he's earning 2 CPs per week. 2 CPs per week. So that means in week 1, we have to get a little complicated here. We have to have his 20 CPs he had, right? But then we have to add on 1 week he has 2 CPs. So how many is that? Well, 2 times 1 is 2, right? So he's going to have 2 times 1 is 2, and 2 plus 20 is 22, so he has 22 CPs in week 1. Again, he has 2 CPs per week. So let's keep going. What about in 2 weeks? In 2 weeks, he has 20 CPs so from the start, right? But then he has 2 CPs for every week. And this time it's been 2 weeks. So what's 2 times 2? It's 4. And 4 plus 20 is 24. Let's jump up just like we did over here. Over here we want 1, 2, 5. Let's try that with Charlie. So at 5 weeks, that means now Charlie's got 20 CPs plus 2 CPs per week, right? Now it's been how many weeks? It's been 5 weeks. So 2 times 5 is 10, and 10 plus 20 is 30. So look, in week 5, they actually have the same amount of CPs. Interesting. So let's keep going. If you look here, things kind of match up, right? Times 1, times 2, times 5. They just match this number over here, right? And remember, this means 2 CPs per week. Let's try a situation where it's 10. So I would encourage you to pause right here and try to fill this space in for what you think it's going to be when it's been 10 weeks. All right, let's take a look together. So I know he's got 20 to start with, but then it's 2 per week this time for how many weeks? For 10 weeks. Where's Charlie at now? Well, what's 2 times 10? 2 times 10 is 20. 20 and 20 is 40 CPs. So now he's actually gone over what his friend has. So let's see if we can write an expression here. Write an expression for Hank for W amount of weeks. So Hank has W amount of weeks. So think about how I figured this out. I'm just adding the number of weeks, right? 1 and 1, 2 and 2, 5 and 5, 10 and 10. I'm adding the number of weeks to what number every time for Hank? I'm adding it to 25. So if I wrote an expression for Hank, I could, for W amount of weeks, I could say his expression is W plus 25. But of course, we know order doesn't matter. So we could also have 25 plus W. What about our friend Charlie? Well, Charlie, life is not as good, right? So he's got W amount of weeks. We don't know how much. We're just going to write an expression to model it. Well, look, we know the weeks matches every time right here, but this time, what is the weeks always having done to it? It's always being multiplied by 2. So that means I'm taking 2 times W, right? 2 times the number of weeks. 2 times 10. 10s match up. 2 times 5. 5 matches up. 2 times 2. 1 times 2. All of those numbers, right? But I'm not just doing 2 times W to get these numbers, right? I'm also adding 20. So my expression I could write for our friend Charlie could be 20 plus 2 times W. I can write that simpler. I can just write 2W. Or, we know order doesn't matter, so I could also do 2W plus 20. So these are my expressions I can write for Hank and Charlie. So let's see if we can actually compare these two and think about who you would rather be. Which student would you rather be? And if you look, it kind of depends, right? Because look, if you're Hank, you don't want to be Hank in week 1. He's got 26 CPs. But Charlie, he's got 22 CPs in week 1. But then, look, as we get down to week 10, who would you rather be now? Now it changes, right? You'd much rather be Hank, right? Instead of Charlie, because he's got 5 fewer CPs in that week. So let's think about this. The question says, who has more before 5 weeks? So let's look at what Hank has. Before 5 weeks, right? So we can put a star. We want to pay attention to 5 because that's when they are the same. Before 5 weeks, who would you rather be? The person with 26 and 27, right? So would you rather be Hank with 26 and 27 in week 1 and 2? Or would you rather be Charlie with 22 and 24? So you can clearly see who has more before 5 weeks. Hank has more before 5 weeks. But now let's look after 5 weeks. After 5 weeks, look what happens. Now we've got 35 for Hank. And we've got, if you look back up at your table, we have 40 for Charlie. So who has more? Charlie has more. So when it asks you who would you rather be, well, you have to say it depends on what? It depends on the number of weeks. It depends on the number of weeks. Before 5 weeks, blank has fewer CPs. But after 5 weeks, I'm going to run out of room here. But after 5 weeks, blank has fewer CPs. So when it is 5 weeks, at 5 weeks, they have blank. So let's think about this for a second. So when you're asked, who would you rather be in this situation? See if you can kind of use my example to help you write your own response. Who would you rather be? Would you rather be Hank or would you rather be Charlie? So pause, try to fill this in, and see what you think. All right, so let's see. It depends on the number of weeks. Before 5 weeks, blank has fewer CPs. So we should say Charlie has fewer CPs. But after 5 weeks, blank has fewer CPs. It switches to Hank. At 5 weeks, they have the same number, the same amount. So obviously, it wouldn't matter who you were at 5 weeks. They both have, we can see in our table, at 5 weeks, they both have 30 CPs.